Mocking laughter echoed through the bar, mingling with the flashing neon lights that cast an ominous glow. A group of racists were surrounding a vulnerable individual, their venomous words and aggression filling the bar with a palpable tension. Suddenly, the door swung open. A powerful figure emerged, The Rock. Unbeknownst to everyone in the bar, within moments, a storm would erupt, and those ruthless individuals would receive the most valuable lesson of their lives. What transpired to transform an ordinary night into an unforgettable memory? Before we delve into the story, please share where you're watching from. And don't forget to subscribe. Another inspiring tale awaits you tomorrow. The story unfolds. In a bar, a group of racist patrons sat, their laughter and derisive remarks permeating the atmosphere as they bullied a helpless man. Abruptly, the door burst open, and The Rock strode into the bar, intending to grab a drink. Oblivious to his identity, they hurled beer at him. Their laughter intensified as they watched the liquid splatter across his jacket. Little did they know that their actions had just ignited a chain of events that would impart a harsh lesson in humility and respect, one they wouldn't soon forget. Subscribe and like this video to witness how the story unfolds. As twilight painted the sky with vibrant hues of crimson and gold, the camera panned across a sleepy town, casting a soft glow upon the quaint yet now eerily silent streets. Amidst the tranquility, a neon sign beckoned us to the rusty Anchor Tavern, where the mood shifted as the dimly lit interior revealed a group of hardened bikers, the notorious Iron Serpents gang. Their boisterous, derisive laughter filled the room, the air thick with tension that made other patrons shrink in their seats, fear and unease radiating from their strained expressions. The gentle creak of the swinging door heralded the arrival of a formidable figure. The Rock entered, his presence dominating the space as he stood in the doorway of the bar, his piercing gaze commanding attention. The rugged edges of his leather jacket were a fitting complement to his tough demeanor. Like a thick fog, silence descended upon the room as the Iron Serpents and their captive audience turned their eyes toward the newcomer. With measured steps, The Rock navigated the treacherous terrain, his footsteps echoing with purpose as he confidently strode towards the bar, his eyes surveying the scene with a composed caution. The bartender, sensing the danger the unexpected patron brought, nervously greeted The Rock with a trembling voice, betraying his unease. "What'll it be?" he inquired, his fingers clutching the bar rag with a white-knuckled grip, a nervous tick revealing his inner turmoil. The question hung in the air, a moment of uncomfortable silence broken only by the sound of restrained breaths. The bar's attention was now fully focused on the precarious exchange. A smirk played on The Rock's lips, his smile hinting at a potential threat, like a wolf baring its teeth in a playful warning. "Just water," he replied, the seemingly innocuous request carrying a deeper meaning, suggesting a level of control and confidence in this tense environment. Water, a strategic choice representing both composure and clarity, trickled into a glass, the ice cubes clinking against the rim, the sound puncturing the bar's silence. The Rock's measured sips were a silent taunt, his eyes fixed on the gang members, a silent challenge lingering in the air. Jake, with an air of swagger befitting a man accustomed to unchallenged dominion over his territory, scanned The Rock with a smug, almost disdainful grin. His leather vest, adorned with the gang's insignia, strained across his bulky frame, a visual testament to the brute force he wielded. Well, he drawled, his voice dripping with overconfidence as he assessed the newcomer. The gang's laughter echoed through the bar, their voices exuding a sense of false bravado intended to intimidate The Rock. But their efforts were in vain as he remained unfazed, casually sipping his water as if the situation were of no consequence. His silence, a deafening testament to his resolve, sent a clear message. He would not be cowed by their taunts. Jake, fueled by a toxic blend of arrogance and testosterone, swaggered up to the bar, his posture a deliberate attempt to intimidate The Rock. "You're in over your head, pal," he sneered, the harshness in his tone betraying his unease at being ignored. "This ain't exactly your kind of place." His eyes raked over The Rock, a mocking grin twisting his lips, yet the silent challenge went unanswered. The Rock's gaze remained unwavering as he took another sip of water, the ice cubes clinking against the glass as a subtle warning. The rock turned towards Jake, his face a mask of serenity, the underlying threat only perceptible to those who knew what to look for. "Just having a drink," he replied evenly, his voice a smooth baritone that exuded quiet confidence. "Don't want any trouble." The statement, delivered with the nonchalance of a man who had nothing to prove, seemed to deflate Jake's inflated ego, his taunts dying on his tongue as he struggled to find a suitable retort. The tension in the air thickened, the conflict only moments away from erupting into violence. Jake's taunts carried a thinly veiled hostility, his words designed to provoke the rock into action. "Trouble?" he scoffed, his eyes narrowing as he feigned innocence. "Who said anything about trouble? Unless you're too good to hang out with us." The jab at the rock's perceived superiority was a last-ditch effort to salvage his wounded pride. His thinly veiled threat hung in the air like a noose, but the rock remained unfazed, his composure a testament to his unyielding nature. The promise of violence simmered just below the surface as the iron serpents moved in like circling sharks, their laughter echoing off the bar's walls, a sinister soundtrack to their encroaching presence. Slim, a wiry man with tattooed arms, stepped forward, his malice evident in the smug grin that stretched across his lips. With a deliberate motion, he knocked over the rock's glass of water, the liquid splashing across the countertop, a gesture symbolic of disrespect. Their bravado emboldened, their taunts grew more brazen as they sensed an impending victory. The atmosphere grew heavy with the stench of imminent violence. Slim grinned, his eyes gleaming with malice as he sized up the rock. "Oops," he drawled, his voice dripping with mock innocence. "My bad." The taunt dripped from his lips like venom, the feeble attempt at an insult a pathetic attempt to provoke the rock, but the large man remained unmoved, his posture unchanged as he stared deep within, the glint in his eyes the only indication of the storm gathering inside. The gang sensed the tension reaching a boiling point, bracing themselves for the inevitable explosion. The rock, his patience finally reaching its limit, calmly wiped the water off his jacket, an act of nonchalance that belied the simmering rage within as he rose to his feet. The air seemed to vibrate with the sheer weight of his presence, the entire bar as taut as a drawn bowstring. "I'll get the next round," he stated calmly, each word carrying a weight and authority that silenced the room. The rock's voice, resolute and controlled, carried a silent command that demanded respect, his eyes holding a steely resolve that brooked no argument. As the rock turned to leave, Jake, still intent on instigating a confrontation, moved to block his path. "Leaving so soon?" he sneered, his voice laced with venom. "We're just getting acquainted." The words were a provocation, a final attempt to goad the rock into a reaction, but the large man remained impervious to the bait, his expression unchanged. He met Jake's gaze with a silent intensity, the silence between them as thick as treacle. The rest of the gang, sensing the impending clash, closed in on the rock, their bravado replaced by a predatory hunger. The crowd's insults, once focused on intimidation, now devolved into a barrage of slurs and personal attacks, their venom fueled by hate and prejudice. "Why don't you go back where you came from?" one of them spat, his words dripping with malice. "Think you're too good for us? What are you gonna do? Cry to your daddy?" Another sneered. Their jeers escalated as they interpreted the rock's silence as weakness. But beneath his seemingly calm exterior, a storm was brewing, his internal anger accumulating with each passing word. Jake, emboldened by the gang's support, stepped closer to the rock, his sneer morphing into a grin that radiated malice. "What's the matter?" he growled, his words a mockery of camaraderie. "Can't take a joke?" The question was a final attempt to provoke the rock, a last desperate bid to maintain control of the situation. But the words fell on deaf ears as the rock's anger finally reached its boiling point. His shoulders tensed and his fists clenched, the air around him seeming to shimmer with barely contained rage. As the confrontation reached its climax, the bartender, sensing the storm gathering, stepped forward in a desperate attempt to defuse the situation. "Guys, just leave him alone," he pleaded, his voice tinged with fear. He hasn't done anything. But his words fell on deaf ears, drowned out by the escalating tension that crackled in the air. The gang, their adrenaline pumping, ignored the bartender's warning. Their eyes fixed on the rock's looming figure, a predatory glint in their eyes. Jake, his temper flaring, snapped at the bartender. "Shut up, Sam," he growled, his words dripping with contempt. "This ain't your business." His harsh tone silenced any further protest from the bartender, the man retreating back to his position behind the bar, his face a mask of resignation. The warning unheeded, the crowd's attention returned to the rock now, the air thick with anticipation as they awaited the inevitable explosion. The rock's voice remained deceptively calm, laced with an underlying menace that sent a shiver through the air. "I don't want any trouble," he stated, his words a final plea for peace. "But if you keep pushing me," he continued, the dangerous edge in his voice now unmistakable, "you're not going to like what happens next." The threat was delivered with a chilling conviction, a silent promise that spelled doom for anyone foolish enough to disregard it. The gang, their bravado shaken, recoiled slightly, their courage now tempered by a newfound respect for the silent giant in their midst. The gang, emboldened by their perceived numerical advantage, erupted in a chorus of mocking laughter at the rock's warning. Their snickers, once loud and piercing, faded into an awkward silence as the rock's stony expression remained unchanged. His silence only amplified the growing unease, a palpable tension stretching between the two factions, a metaphorical wire drawn taut that could snap at any moment. The laughter died down, the gang's bravado faltering in the face of the rock's unwavering composure. Jake, his recklessness fueled by the support of his cronies, stepped forward and shoved the rock with a violent jolt. The momentum sent the rock staggering back a step, and the gang quickly capitalized on the perceived weakness, surrounding him like a pack of wolves encircling their prey. "What are you going to do, big boy?" Jake taunted, his eyes gleaming with a dangerous glee. Why, the words hung in the air, dripping with venom and mockery. But the rock's expression remained unchanged, his eyes as hard as flint as they surveyed his attackers with the calm precision of a seasoned warrior. The rock effortlessly dodged a wild punch thrown by one of the gang members in a blur of motion. He seized the man's arm, his large, powerful hands easily manipulating the limb into a painful hold. The man yelped, his face contorting in agony as the rock twisted his arm behind his back. The ease with which the rock subdued his attacker sent a wave of fear through the remaining gang members, their bravado giving way to a sudden primal terror as they realized the full extent of the danger they were in. With a chillingly calm demeanor, the rock's voice resonated through the bar. "I warned you," he said, his words a stark reminder of their folly. His gaze remained unwavering as he surveyed the remaining gang members, the growing terror in their eyes a testament to their realization of their impending doom. The mood in the bar shifted from exhilaration to dread, anticipation replaced by a palpable fear as the gang members began to realize that the tables had turned, their supposed prey now a predator stalking them with deadly precision. Like a dam breaking, the bar erupted into chaos as the gang, driven by desperation and primal instinct, lunged at the rock with a ferocity born of fear. Chairs and tables were overturned in their wake, the din of destruction a deafening cacophony that echoed through the small establishment. Punches rained down on the rock, the relentless assault a blur of flailing limbs and wild cries. The rock seemed unfazed by the violent onslaught, moving with an almost preternatural grace, his movements precise and efficient. His training and years of honed experience transformed the chaotic brawl into a dance of destruction with an artistry that belied his size. He evaded a punch aimed at his jaw, the swing missing by mere inches. Seizing the opportunity, he retaliated with a devastating uppercut, the blow landing on Jake with the force of a cannonball. The gang leader staggered backward, colliding with a nearby table and sending it crashing to the floor. Seeing the distraction, D lunged at the rock from behind, his arms seeking a solid hold, but his attack met only air as the rock deftly sidestepped. Using his momentum against him with a fluid motion, he grabbed the gang member by the back of his jacket and flipped him over, sending him crashing to the floor with a bone-jarring thud. In the same breath, the Rock turned to face another attacker, a pool cue raised like a predator's claw. Freezing his prey with a glare, the Rock's piercing gaze pinned the remaining gang members, their previous bravado now shattered by the brutal efficiency with which he had dispatched their comrades, sending a chill down their spines. A nervous tension rippled through the group as they realized they had miscalculated the situation, their momentary hesitation a fatal error in the face of the Rock's unwavering composure. Panting heavily, the Rock's eyes narrowed, his gaze predatory as he surveyed the remnants of the iron serpents. Enough, he growled, the question sounding more like a declaration. His words were laced with a menacing undertone that brooked no argument. Silence descended heavily, a brief moment of calm amidst the chaos that had erupted moments before. The gang members exchanged anxious glances, their bodies tensed like coiled springs ready to unleash. With a foolhardy defiance that bordered on stupidity, Jake reached into his pocket, retrieving a switchblade. With a violent flick of his wrist, the metallic snap of the blade echoed through the hushed air. The gang leader's eyes gleamed with a feral light as he brandished the weapon. "Think you're tough?" he hissed, his words dripping with venom. "Let's see how tough you are now." The menacing glint of the blade shimmered in his hand, the danger it posed underscored by the anxious shuffling of the remaining gang members. The terrified gasps of the remaining patrons punctuated the already tense atmosphere, the sound reverberating like a death knell throughout the bar. Some huddled beneath tables or hid behind chairs, desperately avoiding the deadly confrontation unfolding before them. The Rock's eyes, once a deep, calm ocean of serenity, now blazed like two daggers, his expression hardening into something deadly, primal. His stance shifted, the muscles coiling within his frame tensing as he prepared to confront the armed Jake. The Rock's words, delivered with a chilling, assassin-like tone, were less a warning and more a final chance for Jake to back down. "You really don't want to do this," he said, his voice a low, menacing growl. The air in the bar seemed to thicken with anticipation, the silence broken only by the ragged breaths of the combatants. The Rock's gaze, a searing challenge, dared Jake to test the limits of the Rock's legendary strength and resolve. In a flash of blinding speed, Jake lunged at the Rock, his knife raised in a deadly arc, but the Rock, his instincts honed through years of training and combat, easily evaded the attack. Seizing the moment, he snatched Jake's wrist in a vice-like grip, forcing the gang leader to release his hold on the knife. With a flick of his wrist, the Rock sent the blade skittering across the floor, its metallic clatter echoing through the room. With Jake pinned against the wall, the Rock's words resonated with finality. "This ends here," he declared, his voice ringing through the room like a command from a vengeful deity. His face was a mask of icy determination reflecting the cold resolve in his words. His eyes locked onto Jake's own, his body rigid with power and control. The Rock's presence was an all-encompassing force, his authority undeniable as he pronounced the end of this chapter of violence. The aftermath of the confrontation was a scene of devastation. Bikers lay scattered across the floor like broken dolls, their battered bodies strewn amidst the wreckage, a testament to the Rock's overwhelming superiority in strength and skill, his victory absolute. The Rock's attention shifted to the bartender, his imposing figure softening as he approached the bar, pulling out a wad of cash from his pocket. "This should cover the damages," he said, a glint of compassion in his eyes revealing a stark contrast to the warrior who had just decimated the iron serpents. The bartender, overwhelmed with gratitude, spoke, his words heavy with appreciation. "Thank you," he uttered, his tone brimming with relief. "You didn't have to do that." The bartender's expression was a mixture of awe and disbelief as he accepted the cash, his mind struggling to reconcile the ruthless enforcer of justice with the compassionate soul standing before him. "I mean, you've done more than enough already," he added, his voice trembling slightly. Sensing the bartender's unease, the Rock offered him a kind, reassuring smile. "It wasn't your fault," he said, his voice a soothing balm. "Thanks for trying to help." The simple gesture spoke volumes, dispelling any lingering doubts about the Rock's true nature. In this moment, He was no longer the brutal avenger, but a man with a heart as big as his biceps. A gentle soul hidden behind a granite exterior. With a final, grateful nod to the bartender, the Rock turned to leave, his imposing figure casting an impressive silhouette against the doorway. But before he could depart, the patrons who had once cowered in fear erupted in a chorus of cheers. Their voices swelled with admiration and gratitude. Their applause a cacophonous symphony of clapping and shouting that echoed through the room. A gesture of thanks to the hero who had stood up against the tyranny of the Iron Serpents. The Rock, with a dignified expression, nodded slightly, accepting their accolades with the quiet reverence of a man who understood his place in the world. News of the epic encounter spread like wildfire throughout the town, the tale of the Rock's heroism growing grander with each retelling. The newspapers, ever hungry for a sensational headline, splashed the story across their front pages, painting the Rock as a modern-day Hercules who had overthrown a regime of oppression. For the Iron Serpents, their defeat was a crushing blow. Their once fearsome reputation now a laughingstock in the community. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with fiery hues of orange. The Rock climbed into his car, pausing for a moment to savor his victory and the impact he had made. A small smile played on his lips as he started the engine, his eyes fixed on the open road ahead. And as he drove off into the sunset, his silhouette blending with the last rays of light, the world around him felt a little brighter, a little safer, a little more hopeful. This story is a powerful reminder that courage and conviction can make all the difference. If you were the Rock in this situation, how would you have handled it? Have you ever faced injustice and been compelled to stand up for what's right? Share your thoughts in the comments. You never know, your story might just inspire someone. If you found this story meaningful, don't forget to share it with your friends and family to spread the message of respect and courage. Thank you for watching and for being a part of our community. Subscribe to our channel today. Another inspiring story awaits you tomorrow. Stay strong, stay happy, and stay successful. Thank you for your support. Like, share, and subscribe for the latest updates. These stories are collected from various sources and do not represent any individual or organization. They are shared with the aim of promoting human values in life and have been rewritten with the assistance of AI. If there are any errors, please kindly overlook them. Wishing you all the best in life.